Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of Side Talk with Rami and Craig. Today on this show, Rami, we have got some juicy ones, haven't we? We've
Oh
got.
yeah.
Go ahead. You tell us what we got. What do we got?
Oh well, we're going to talk about Elliot Page and
Elliot Page.
dead naming. And later we're going to get into some Chapelle, Dave Chapelle stuff. One of my favorite comedians. Um,
Absolutely.
we're gonna.
We're gonna touch on like those are the two major talking points. Quite serious. Like transgender rights has been in the news for like over the past few years. Jordan Peterson is probably one of the biggest names that's been linked to pronoun use and so on. And here we have another backlash story with Elliot Page and as well Chapelle. You and I are big fans. Very funny guy, and you probably feel this more than a lot of people. Rami being a creative, having the acting background and trying to produce something. And as well, we'll throw in a few wee fluffy bits that we discussed.
All right, great show.
Before we start, Rami, do you think mushrooms are the new way of packaging?
Um, I mean, I guess listen, humans come up with gimmicks all the time, and this is just another gimmick down the road. I mean, to me, if it was like such great, if it's like a revolutionary thing, it would have been discovered. I mean, mushrooms ain't new, right? So people I'm sure people did everything with mushrooms, like everything, right? Let me make this into a box. Let me stick it up my ass. Let me, smoke it. Let me, melt it and, whatever, shower with it. I'm saying there's a whole bunch of stuff people did, and obviously packaging was not one of them. But if somebody wants to make a gimmick work, hey, good for them. Make money, man.
It costs $45 to buy a gift set available. This, by the way, everyone, we're talking about a company UK based. They're called Seedlip, and what they do is they sell alcoholic beverages, non-alcoholic drinks.
Boo.
And, non-alcoholic drinks. The packaging is made from mushrooms, which I think is pretty cool that they're going and trying that. Rami doesn't think so, but like they're trying to reduce plastic and all of these, be more renewable, be more green. So I'm all for it. But
yeah,
hey,
well,
it's
it's like I said, don't you think it's like a gimmick? I mean, come on. They're trying to say, hey, you can make a box and you can throw it on your plant and it'll decompose and make it grow more. I mean, I don't know. What is their whole?
Yeah, well, like if I had the choice between having my kitchen bin where I chuck plastic, not plastic. Hold on. Yes, if I have my recycling bin where I'm chucking plastic, cardboard, all this stuff. Or I have a wee compostable box, and I can use that compost for growing my herbs or growing, some little potatoes when the season comes. That would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be amazing.
Why not? Why not go for it, Rami?
I mean, because again, it's just who got time for that? I mean, who the fuck got time to be like, oh, I have a garden, let me, instead of buying the whatever package I have at the local store, let me order it from these motherfuckers and wait 3 weeks, right, to get the fucking package, right? And then, look, it's better for everybody to get a marginal kind of growth,
What if they have it in shops near your house, right?
But they won't.
Well, why? Look, right, see right now here, the way it works, I know Colombia, they don't recycle the way other countries in Europe do, but here now we have our recycling, we've got our general waste, and we've got these little food bins. And the bags that you can now buy, which are available in Tesco's, are available in all the major stores, all those shops you can go to, they're decomposable.
That's different.
That's the new norm.
Yeah, but that's first of all, that's different. And I want to correct you on something. Colombia has been one of in my travels, the most environmentally friendly places I've been. I mean, they recycle more than anybody I've seen. Honestly, they really take that seriously.
But
You
Romy,
know,
we didn't have a waste management system whenever I lived there. Like,
oh, but you don't. I mean, it's like a requirement. Like when the building I live in, I cannot throw glass products or plastic products into the bin. I have to separate them for the. And I mean, that's like thing here. You know, I mean, that's not like a big thing, but in America, they don't do that shit. I mean,
well, I don't know what waste management system you had, but we just had these like, they were kind of homeless guys just came across and hoked through and seen what they could get, and then
right.
they did
That's
the
your waste
recycling.
management system, the homeless
That was
guys.
there was never a guy coming along. It was always them. It was just like some guy with like, he was
Wait a
clearly.
minute, are you saying that was a good home waste management system?
No,
Like
I'm
having
saying like that. It's non-existent. But you had like trucks come along and proper.
no, in Jersey and New York, they
No,
have
in
trucks.
Colombia,
In Colombia, no, but I
who
don't.
takes it
That's what I'm trying
all?
to tell you. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They separate it on their own. It's like part of the natural job. Like the guy who picks up the garbage, they
Yeah,
separate it. I mean, they don't say, "Oh, I'm going to go through this garbage and separate it." It's like whoever takes out my garbage, the people who work in my building,
yeah.
they pick out this plastic every day from my hallway of all the apartments, and they separate it because they require the tenants to separate it for them. So that thus, when they give it to the garbage man, it's
Yeah.
already separated. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel you. It's just so okay. I just didn't know like where the garbage men were in all of this. I
Well,
never seen a garbage man in Colombia.
right, no, I've seen garbage trucks in Colombia. I've seen. Come on, you
Why
haven't
have I
seen a
not
garbage.
seen them?
Oh, I mean, why is it so clean here? This is you got to admit, Medellin is like one of the cleanest places you've been to, right? Or no?
Um,
I mean, I'm not talking about like new shiny buildings, right?
it's not sparkling clean, but it's not dirty. Yeah, it's not.
Well,
It's pretty well kept.
It's a lot cleaner than New York, buddy. Let me tell you.
Anyway, let's we're digressing.
Anyway, all right. So,
We're going off.
right, rubbish. Let's
So
stop talking about rubbish.
all in all, mushrooms are they the future? Yet to be decided. Rami, let's talk about Elliot Page, transgender
All
rights,
right.
dead
Now
naming.
the juicy stuff, right? Yeah, I see. You're becoming stressed already. Good. That means
Oh
we're
yeah,
on a,
it's such
you
a
know,
heavy. It's so heavy all the time. I don't know, but
heavy cream.
yeah. Go on. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so let's get into it.
This is Elliot Page, by the way. On the, it's not a very good picture, but on the.
Well, no, right, Elliot Page, right? Okay, Elliot Page. So for people that don't know they didn't see it if you didn't talk. Remember, you have to
No,
talk
no,
for a
they
second.
actually. Well, I changed this view.
Oh, okay, good. So um, uh, Elliot Page, right? For those who don't know, uh, he was formerly known, right, as Emily Page, the actress, who was famous for Inception, X-Men,
Juno.
uh, Juno. Like that's probably what put her on the map, you
Yeah.
know. And she recently did this transgender transformation, and now she is now Elliot Page. Kind of controversial lately with what's called dead naming, right? Basically, when you transgender or become a different sex, right? Mainly, right? It is offensive to use your former name because that is so, I guess, gender related names, Jack, John, Joe, Adam, Eve, right?
Yeah.
So, all when this news broke out, all the media, New York Times, they said, oh, Elliot Page, formerly, Emily Page. There was a backlash, of course, because that's what people fucking do. The same people who buy mushroom boxes are the same people who, like, oh my God, right? Cancel culture, whatever, shock culture, whatever, right? And they're saying that's offensive, right? Um, that's pretty much
That's
the
that's the
basics of it.
that's the backstory. I've got the wee tweet here. I'll read it in a second. But what do you think, Romy? What's your immediate thoughts on the fact that um, this, I don't even know how to phrase this, like Elliot has come out as transgender, and also the backlash and what's going on.
Um, when I first heard it, because I wasn't like, I just saw the news because I have it on my, Google, like, oh, Google News or whatever, right? I have like little things, topics. And I was just like, oh, well, I mean, she was kind of half a man anyway, right? So, so, she wasn't very feminine, right? So I was like, okay, well, that makes sense, right? I guess, right? Then I was speaking to a friend, and he was telling me, oh, this thing called dead naming. Again, just until a week ago, I did not know what that even was. And I was just
There's
like,
new
what?
terms like every week. Just
Yeah, and it's actually, these terms they come up with is pretty clever. Like I got to give it to them. I mean, dead naming. You kind of like, oh, okay, cool, right? So basically, it's explaining to me like, oh, the old name is dead, right? And now new name, no mention of it, right? And at first I was like, then how are they supposed to tell the news? I mean, how are they supposed to tell people like the facts, right? And I was just like, well, that's just kind of stupid. But then I kind of thought about it, right? And I was like, okay, I could see their point of view, right? This is not a small thing for them, right? For somebody that person who goes through this decision. It's not, you want to say, oh, what an idiot, or what, oh, how silly is this person, that's just, they got privilege problems, that's what they're thinking about. But from their point of view, and I'm just going from their point of view, it's such a big decision, right? So I could see how it can be offensive, but on the other hand, they got to
real.
realize
Wait, what can be offensive?
that naming
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
dead naming can be offensive, right? But on the other hand, they also have to realize, right, that not everybody's transgender. In fact, most people aren't, right? Overwhelmingly, most people aren't, right? So you cannot expect people to conform to you, right? Even though you're like, oh my God, it's the biggest decision in my life. Okay, that's great, right? But you can't expect people to conform to you, right? And so when you get shocked or offended, right? Well, that tells me you did not put a lot of thought into all the stuff, all the consequences of your decision. And when I say consequences, people connotate it with a negative connotation, but consequences is neither negative or positive. There's always a consequence, right? Right. So, and that tells me, well, you shouldn't be offended. Go focus on something else, right? And that's where I'm coming from. I'm not saying that you don't have the right to be offended, or that good, be annoying, and you want to tell people, yeah, it's kind of annoying, or something. But making it a big thing where somebody would have to retract an article, or I mean, you're causing more harm than good as far as information, because information is always good. Bad information, good information, doesn't matter, right? Information is good, right? So people, you're always, like I tell you, man, the positive part of this, that she's countering the positive part of this by doing this.
Something I thought about, Rami, was whenever I heard the news, right, I just read it, and then I went, and I kind of was like, oh, okay. It was kind of like this thing where we're getting educated as a society. I remember the first time I heard like a transgender case, it wasn't that long ago. And it was the shock and this kind of, what would you say? Just trying to come to terms with it, educating myself on it. There was a whole discussion, and there was these waves. And now I think we're at the stage coming to 2021. I've seen it on in myself. Whenever I read the news, I was like, right. It's becoming less of a wave, in my opinion, in terms of, well, in our minds. I just feel like in the next 5 years, this stuff will just eventually just get less and less and less. I think the news will try and make it a thing because that's how you get clicks. But in terms of people's feelings on it, I think people don't care anymore. Do you know?
Yeah. Do you think people are just getting used to this? Is that what you're trying to say? The
Yes, I feel
short?
like
Yeah.
we're we are being educated. We have been educated. We're at the point where I think we understand it to a much greater extent than when all this started coming out so publicly in the news. Transgender stuff wasn't discussed, what, 10 years ago? Was it really?
Yeah. I mean, you got Jenner, right?
When was that?
Caitlyn Jenner now.
But that was what,
Uh,
5 years ago or
no, I think
something?
it was more. No,
Was it?
every time I think something was recently, I find out that it's like 7 or 8. It's like, yeah,
Toy
so
Story was made 25 years.
you're right, right. I would have to say at least 5 years ago. You know,
Yeah.
and I come from an urban, background. That's where I
Mm.
grew up, Jersey City, New York City, and I just see the contrast of that kind of culture, like the hip hop kind of culture, right?
Mhm.
And it's not cool there. It's still not even close to cool, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, we grew up like calling each other to bust each other's balls or even be offensive when you're angry, faggot.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, you fuck you, faggot, right? It was just
Romy, just yesterday I was coming up the road and there two wee lads, and one of them was like, one of them called the other one gay boy. It's like you're right that's a big part of those offensive lines when you're growing up. I don't know how much it's used these days, but I don't know. There was that one kid who did say a derogatory term.
right. Even here, I mean, in Spanish, marica,
Mhm.
right? It's
Yeah.
like that everybody says it. It's like but like yo, like hey, marica, like marica is like
It's
gay,
a
right?
term of endearment as well.
Well, yeah, but it is an offensive
Yeah.
vernacular of to call somebody who's homosexual, right?
Mm.
As well. But they've used it like it's the N word. I don't want to get into that, but it's the same kind of thing to
Okay.
them.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
somebody who's who can use it and who cannot. But anyway, it just tells me that in terms of what's different, like how the media world and I include media as in Facebook, Twitter, CNN, that whole kind of thing, right? It's so out of touch to me with the real world, right?
Mm.
And like I said, if I'm still with my friends and we joke around, you're like, oh, you like it up the ass, this like, to be like busting each other's balls, right?
Yeah.
Right? And it's just again, I don't think that's gonna ever change, right? Because most people are not homosexual. It's just a fact to me. It's not like, oh, we shouldn't change and we should never change. I'm not, arguing that point, right?
Mm.
I'm just saying, like, you got to accept things sometimes the way it is, right? And that is the way it is. Now, should that change? Maybe, but then busting balls has to change. And when you and between friends, like you and I joke all the time. We
Mm.
like you like your haircut looks whatever, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I mean then that's out of the is that out of
It's gone. Yeah, it's gone.
is that right? That's what I'm
But the
saying.
other
I don't want.
side, the other argument, from people who would find what you just said actually offensive, they would say, "Isn't there a range of other slags you can give?" But yeah, like Romy, I did a podcast there midweek, and we were talking about dark humor and how that is sometimes we can't use it. We have to feel people out if we can use it, and regardless of whether it's right or wrong, we as humans do find it really funny. And it's is that type of humor? Is that these types of jokes? Are these just part of being a human?
I think so. I mean, you can't take comedy out of people, and you can't tell people what you should find funny. I mean, I have a very particular sense of humor.
Mm.
I would say it's pretty. Whatever. Who cares about what my sense of humor is? But I'm just saying. I have a particular, and you have a particular sense of humor.
Yeah.
It's just like you can't tell them like you shouldn't find this funny. You know, well, who the F are you to tell me what I should and should not find funny?
Mm.
You know? So, in my dad's funeral, I was laughing. You know, I was because not because I found something funny about the hypocrisy of what was going on at the time. Not gonna get into it, but I felt it was hypocrisy, and I was just like, this is what a joke this is, and that was like my really first exposure to human hypocrisy, right? Which was, I think this is like a kind of a thing here, and then you even bring it into this conversation, right?
Mm.
Those same people who would you shouldn't say dead naming, right? Or are doing something offensive. I guarantee you, in their personal life to somebody.
Probably.
Whether it's not like black people, right? Or it's not like Asians. I mean, they say something. I mean, and they're like, oh, in the no, but they don't even look at that, right? And that's hypocrisy to me, and that's really funny to me. That's what's really funny.
I know you don't listen to him, but Jordan Peterson touched on this, and they were discussing offensive words and offensive terms, and the woman said to him, "Do you not think it's appropriate to not say something offensive?" And he said, "Well, something along the lines of, well, that would require understanding everything that is offensive to people. And if you accumulated all of the offensive things that people find offensive, you'd have nothing left to say. You know, it's impossible." So
Right. But on the same hand, right? And I just don't, I like to always look at both sides, right?
mm,
My friend says that that's my way out of things. I don't agree, right?
yeah,
But, right? I always like to look at both sides, right? And, there are some things that are offensive, right?
mm,
And that they should be changed. Again, like the N word, it's a lot of like violent history, that's kind of thing. And even, faggot and homosexual, there's also a little violence associated with it. You know, like I think we can walk the line. I think between friends, they call each other, to
should
bust
be
each other's
fine.
balls. I mean, yeah, that's fine, but I should never call a gay person,
Oh yeah, for
homosexual
sure.
person, a fat, and never, even jokingly.
Mhm.
I never should use it publicly, right?
Exactly.
Uh, right. I should never, and I should never treat people differently
Mm.
because of that. And not, that's the things that you should kind of uh, try to focus on. And I think you could, like, between friends, I could call you whatever. It's my friend.
Bro, one of my friends was making like a little book, a scrapbook for her brother, and written on the card was, "Here you go, Gaylord." They used to call each other Gaylord growing up, and between them, it's funny, and yeah, I think you're right. I think you probably could use it within your friendships as a little kind of dig, um, but definitely it's not on, and probably shouldn't be promoted to just said willy nilly and to anyone in public, like you mentioned. Uh,
Right. Right.
you know,
hmm Yeah.
I
I mean,
feel like
especially like, yeah. Go ahead.
I feel like just what I've said there, I would get a million people like after me. No,
Well, I mean, yeah, because people would probably say, "Oh no, you should always try to do this even in private because that's your real feelings." And again, like that, again, everything, All right, so I have a lot of white friends here in
okay.
Colombia, like expats, right?
Mm,
Usually from like Florida or kind of other white people area in the United States, right?
mm.
And but they have in person, like, between us, yeah, just they're fucking niggers or something like that, or some
What?
reference. Yeah, and and I was like, what the,
You've heard that?
yeah, I mean, it's just like
Wow.
they feel comfortable with me to say it. And when I first encountered that, because again, I don't, before I came here, because the kind of expat community, right? You kind of like try to seek out people, who speak the same language, culture, and so I started becoming friends with people, or at least associates um, of people like I normally wouldn't have in my circles, which
Mm,
I kind of like too, as well. And I know, and I wouldn't say these are bad people or nothing like that, but for some reason, at some point, right? They go, oh, yeah, like, or what's up, nigga, like that, and they feel like so comfortable saying it around me that they wouldn't, hold on, but they wouldn't say in front of
Yeah.
black people or anybody else. But and I was just like, man, at first I thought, man, I should say something. I'm like, man, fuck, and then I don't know, I just didn't because because I decided that me lecturing them or saying, hey, it's not gonna really change it, you know, and so if I
Like maybe they are ignorant, and you could have just said, "Look here, that lads, that's not on. You should really not say that."
if it was you who said it, and you would never say it, but if it was you who was doing that, I would because I find our friendship worth it, right? I would need to intervene and say, yo, don't do it. But for these particular people, right?
Mhm.
They're kind of, I want to say, alpha males type people, and I'm not saying you are not, but I'm just saying they. Uh, let me rephrase that. Let me right. They are people who don't want other people's input into their lives. I sense that above everything. They're just telling me stuff, and it's not like, hey, like, hey, I'm doing this, or hey, I'm in Belize, and or hey, I just got this new car. I mean, it's that's what they're about.
Mm.
Like they were doing their shit, and I wouldn't say they're like even my close friends,
Well,
but
American, or you said white people. Like, where are they all from? Just wondering. Like,
well, one from around your parts, the UK,
right?
the other, yeah, other ones from New York, other ones from Florida, and I'm just trying to. Again, they don't do this often, but I notice
Mm.
when we're in private, they do it. And it's not like, hey, that's something new, by the way. Plenty of videos where you see, white people calling each other, nigga or whatever. I mean, it's not like something, and black people are very aware of it, you know.
Mm.
Uh, and we could get, again, that's a whole nother topic, but my point is, it's just, again, it's funny when people are using, are hypocrites,
Yeah.
and in public, they're like, no, the opposite is true, and like I said, that's my 2 cents.
Do you want
You know?
to hear this tweet that
Yes,
Elliot
let's
Page
get into the
put out?
tweet. Yes.
Yeah. So here it is. Pretty, well, let you judge. Hi, friends. I want to share with you that I am trans. My pronouns are he, they, and my name is Elliot. I feel lucky to be writing this, to be here, to have arrived at this place in my life. I feel overwhelming gratitude for the incredible people who have supported me along this journey. I can't begin to express how remarkable it feels to finally love who I am enough to pursue my authentic self. I've been endlessly inspired by so many in the trans community. Thank you for your courage, the generosity, the ceaselessly working to make this world a more inclusive and compassionate place. I will offer whatever support I can and continue to strive for a more loving and equal society. She goes on and talks a little bit more about her feelings. And then this one I thought was interesting. She said, I'm also scared. I'm scared of the invasiveness, the hate, the jokes, and the violence. She goes on to tell about some statistics with transgender people. She says in 2020 alone, it has been reported that at least 40 gen, I'm broken, Romy. Transgender people have been murdered, the majority of which were
How
black.
many? How many?
40,
Okay.
40 transgender people murdered. Majority were black or Latinx trans women. She's asking for more political kind of uh, things to be done. And she also mentions it's a community where there is 40% of trans adults reporting um, attempting suicide. Yeah, so she's saying enough is enough, and just be accepting.
Uh, I mean, a lot of that was positive. I liked a lot of it. I didn't like the statistics, especially
Um,
such a small number. Not because it's a small number, because um, you don't know the circumstances of all those deaths. I mean, I'm sure a lot of them were kind of hate related or
mm,
inspired, right? But uh, uh, you know, again, I've been to different countries. in the Village back in the day. I don't know if it's still like that in New York. A lot of transgender people are there, and a lot of them are aggressive. Some, resort to crime. I'm just saying.
You're
I'm
just
not
saying
general.
that there could be other
I
reasons.
mean, there's other reasons, especially, and you know what? You can even make an argument because that world is so kind of taboo, and people are like, you know,
Hmm.
take disgust kind of to it, and like, oh, it kind of puts them in a position of having to be in that world in the first place, right? I mean, you could get into that rabbit hole, right? But but back to her statement, I think it's a positive, and that she's scared. Well, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about this is a big decision for her. We get it, um, but I think she should focus on, or sorry, he should focus on um, trying to cope with that and not trying to change that, because you can't stop that, right? I would be like, hey, make jokes, whatever, man. I'm cool with who I am now, right?
Mm.
Bring it on, right? And I think if more people took that attitude instead of saying, hey, you need to stop doing this, how can you control what other people do? And when you put that, then you cause stress on yourself, right? Because you can't control, because you're setting yourself up for failure there, right? So you automatically put this kind of pressure and disappointment on and stress in your life. So throw all that shit out and say, hey, I know you're gonna do this, but I don't care.
Mm.
I'm gonna go to the fucking beach tomorrow with Brad Pitt, and we're gonna have a beach party, right? And we're gonna be chilling, So
Yeah.
I wish they did that.
It's so alien to me, Romy. Like, see this whole world of what transgender and other sexual orientations go through. I think that a lot of people just this will go. It's just a piece of news that came in, and it's like, all right, okay. It's another world that I think a lot of society just isn't connected with at all. And the way I see it is just so simplistic. It's like, just be kind to people, don't be a dick, accept people for who they are, and try not to offend anyone if you can. Try not to offend anyone. um it's just this story. I know it's all over the news and it's a big thing, but it exhausts me because I just think it's such a small, like, in my mind, it's such a small and simple fix. Just don't be it. Like, why? Just why is someone being this different gender cause you to be violent towards them, or their sexual orientation? Why would you want to be violent towards them? Do you think any transgender person actually wants to be transgender? And I'm saying that because look at the world that they're going into, where they're the criticism, the hateful remarks, and like gay people as well, like a minority. It's no one really would be like, yes, I'm so happy, like I got the gay card or the transgender card. It's just not advantageous in this world. They're gonna have to go through a lot of shit. I just can't wrap my head around people being so violent and hateful towards them. It's like, God, just be nice. you know? That's
Right. No, no, I totally get you, but I always want to add a caveat to that, right?
right.
If you like, and I totally agree, it's not a big deal. Like, why are we
It
even
is.
like making this a big deal, right? Um, uh, the reason it's a big deal, it's a human rights kind of thing, but
Hmm.
right, everybody deserves equal rights to, pursue happiness, right?
Yeah, of
Constitution,
course.
right? But on the other hand, right, if you're saying that it shouldn't be a big deal, then it shouldn't be applauded either, right? Like, I know it's a brave decision,
You shouldn't be.
okay? Applauded.
Oh, yeah, yeah. This is what we talked about with the
Right.
man who was wearing shoes, like women's high heels.
Right, and I'm just looking at the yin yang thing, right?
Hmm.
When when Caitlyn Jenner became Caitlyn Jenner, right? Everybody was like, such a brave. like the cover of magazines on her, how courage she is, and she was so kind of applauded and like put on the screen and awards, and then she was a hit and run a few years ago later. I mean, very flawed person, right? I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna say that, then we can't applaud them either. Then it shouldn't be a big deal if you are transgender. Like, hey, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Not gonna make the news. Nope.
Yeah, exactly. That should be the way it
Right.
is.
Not gonna get
Nope.
300,000 followers because you do something, like that.
Yeah.
And so if they want that, and of course I think they do, because whoever wants, again, attention, right? It's like attention. It's positive attention to them. Of course they want that, right? So if they want that, they gotta also expect the other side of that as well, the bad
Just,
attention, right?
when you say they, just to be precise here, you're talking about those who do want attention within that community.
Right,
Because,
the LGBT,
yeah,
I'm sorry,
because
D,
we
right?
talk about people make Instagram success out of it, and they do want the attention. That's the whole game. But
Right, right,
I'd say probably the vast majority do not
right,
want that attention and do
right,
not want it to even be a thing. One,
right. But
you know.
yeah, but it's the same thing with these women showing their bodies on these to be followers or whatever. I mean, to get these
Yeah.
followers, they show their tits and they're like, "Don't look at my tits." It's don't be offensive, right? And I'm like, lady, hello, right? Again, either embrace it and
The
embrace
models
both
aren't saying
sides.
that, Romy. The models who are posing are not like that, and then afterwards saying, "Don't look at them." They're not saying it.
No,
Other
no, no,
women
no.
are
But
saying.
but
Women
but
are.
but they get comments,
Yeah.
right? You're a slut, you're a whore, something like that, right? Offensive comments, right?
Mm.
And they're like, yeah, these are against women's rights. I have the right to suck as many dicks as I want, right? Or whatever it is, right? I'm just saying, right? If you're gonna embrace it and you're gonna do that, right? Welcome both sides. Do not just cut out one side and say, hey, this is wrong, because then you start sending this message of it's not okay for people to not like you. And it is okay, right? It's okay for people not like you. What's not okay is if they try to physically or mentally harm you by doing it, right? And that's my thing, you know. So
It's Romy, Romy, Romy.
it's a deep, 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 deep conversation.
These boys and girls, will they not ever learn to get along? Will you, will you not
Oh,
just relax and enjoy life a wee bit more? You know,
yeah,
go do your
you know,
photo shoot, have a bit of fun. You behind the keyboard, relax it, relax.
yeah. It ain't gonna happen anytime soon. We're not made for that. But that's. Let's move on, right? Um,
Let's go on
so
Chapelle.
Chapelle, yes. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, what are you shaking your head for?
I'm just laughing at like I just had some like sketches in my head that he did, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
genius, like so funny. Um,
yeah. Well,
bro, let me say that's just the Do you remember this sketch? He's talking about smoking weed at home, and his dog, and how the dog always appears whenever he's smoking. He says like whenever he lights up, the dog's like clued into his process. He can see the dog just coming around the corner and saying to himself, "This motherfucker's gonna eat something soon," you know. It's true, right?
Yeah,
He just appears whenever Dave Chappelle's smoking up a blunt. But
yeah. I mean, I love Dave Chappelle. I got put on to Dave Chappelle from Half Baked. I think Half Baked was like genius when I saw it. I still think it's kind of still genius, right? And his sense of humor is like social criticism combined with kind of like a raunchy, blunt sort
yeah,
of delivery, right?
but also
Um,
simple observations of life. The
right,
simplest
right, right.
thing.
I'm so in tune to him, and 99% of the time, everything he says, I'm totally down with, and I get the sense of humor, right? So for those who don't know, um, Dave Chappelle had this show called Chappelle Show, right? Again, he was rising before that, but this really put him on the map. Yeah. It was a show on Comedy Central, right? That was owned by CBS. Comedy Central is owned by CBS Viacom. They also own HBO, CBS, obviously, a whole bunch of stuff. MTV, right? So Dave Chappelle recently was on Saturday Night Live, right? That day he went on Saturday Night Live. They also Netflix cut a deal where they could stream his the Chappelle show on Netflix, right? And this what these streaming companies do. Like how come they have Friends for a while and it goes off, or Seinfeld on and it goes off. They pay whoever owns it, in this case CBS Viacom, to rent Chappelle show and stream it. Also, the streaming service from HBO Max, also streamed it. So anyway, Chappelle's show did his like regular monologue on Saturday Night Live, and he kind of did an off-the-cuff remark about how he's not getting paid about from Netflix or HBO Max, kind of like in a funny kind of way. I thought it was just a funny joke, and we are gonna move on, right? Apparently, he didn't move on, right? He thought about this a few days, and he came out with like something on YouTube, and he went to this whole story. He got examples of how when he was young, he was tricked. He played a game of three-card Monte, right? And he thought he had it down, and he was like, put all his money on, the only money he had, and he lost. So he was so upset, he stayed, and he kind of figured out all the people around the three-card Monte table were in on it. So there was all a trick for him to give his money. And when he got upset and he was, hey, I want my money back. You guys tricked me, right? He was young. These guys were big dudes. And he was like, no, right? And they kind of scared him, of course, and he didn't get his money, right? So he attests that to kind of how he signed a Chappelle Show contract, right? And it's pretty standard stuff. They pretty much say, and I don't remember the exact legal language, but in perpetuity, we could use your likeness for whatever the fuck we want in the future. Anything, right? I mean, it's a standard kind of contract, right? It's a fucked up contract, but it's standard. So anyway, he implored Netflix, because he's a Netflix star, like, yo, I'm upset about this. This is upsetting, right? Netflix took it off. HBO, of course, ain't taking it off because that's HBO, right? Because Netflix, they want to appease Dave as much as they can, right? So he implores Netflix, and he tells people, please don't watch the Chappelle Show streaming in any form until these guys talk to me, right? And that's where we're at now, right?
When was that, Romy? When did he say that? Please don't watch the...
I think he released his YouTube video maybe 2 weeks ago, a little less than 2 weeks ago.
And have you seen any development on that, or is it still...
No, of the CBS Viacom, they're not. But Netflix took it off. That's the only development they did. After that,
took it off.
Yeah, they did take it off because they, and LeBron James was like, oh, bravo, Netflix, and Chappelle was like, that's why I fuck with Netflix. That's why, and I from their point of view, I understand. Chappelle is a big star.
James LeBron said what?
LeBron James.
I knew that was wrong.
James LeBron. I mean, that's like probably
James. Bryant Kobe.
Bryant Kobe, right? Yeah. He applauded. I mean, I didn't see the tweet, but I read that reference to that. Like LeBron James kind of applauded Netflix for doing that because LeBron James is all about
doing the right thing.
Well, listen. Okay, again. I agree with Chappelle 99% of the time, but this one I do not agree with. Right?
Tell
us. Okay, so I like to consider myself an artist, right? So if I created something, right, and I made some like a success out of it, but it's like one of my hugest things, and somebody took it and started like, oh, well, now it's mine, and I made money, I'll be super upset. I'll be like, oh, like, right, because it's when you create something, man, it's like somebody is taking blood from you because this is something that came out of you, and it wasn't like
your baby.
Right. It's something that's part of you that they're like fucking abusing, you know, and they're doing it. And I get that, right? But we have something called, you know, legal process, right? You signed the contract,
Hmm.
Dave. You know, it's a
That's
fucked
true.
up,
Yeah.
right? It's a fucked up contract. It was. It was also standard, right? And you know, you had lawyers, I'm sure, working on your side, right, at the time. And you know what? You wasn't a big name. You know, they were taking a gamble on you. You
Hmm.
know, they didn't know that. Like nobody was gonna. No, I'm sure he did. I'm sure he felt like, because him and his partner Neil Brennan at the time. I don't know Neil's point of view. I haven't heard, because he also created Chappelle Show with Chappelle. It was very funny, by the way. You need to check him out, right? So, you know, you had, and you guys signed it, and they took a chance, and boom. And now, because of that, you could take the $100 million deal from Netflix because of Chappelle Show. That's the whole point, right? You did something, and now it's getting you into this. Now, I mean, if you could demand this, can't every artist demand this? Oh, you know, now that I'm a big, huge star, every stuff that I did back then, now I want to renegotiate. I'm gonna go back in time, and I want you to, you know, like that means, you know, in music, I don't know if it's still like this, but in music, it was like the most stupidest deal ever. In music, they only gave you 7 points on every dollar. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
That means for every dollar they make off your album, and back then albums, again, they said album, and they had that language in the contract for years, until people like Jay-Z changed it, Puff Daddy, I guess, abused it, but there's people that had to change that because they became big and did their own contracts, right? But it used to be like an album was $11, $12,
Hmm.
and you only got 7 cents off that, or some
That's
crazy
insane.
shit,
That is
right?
insane.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I mean, people hated that stuff. You know, Prince was and that's why he changed his name. Prince. He became the artist. You know, because Prince was being abused by so many companies.
Really?
Right? Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is not like something new. It's just like, hey, yes, it's fucked up, but bro, you know, change the game. And people have changed. Like I said, Jay-Z changed because he started signing people. You know, he gave artists more share. Some people took advantage of it. Puff Daddy, for instance, was notorious for taking advantage of this and being even more of a dick, you know, with artists back in the day. So I just feel like, you know, he's just wrong on this. What are
Yeah.
your
Hmm.
thoughts? You know?
Well, I think, Rami, it's just basics. It's contract. You know that, like, there's not much you can argue with. If you've set out a contract, you're still within that time. The only thing that I'm thinking about is, if he's saying that he was put under pressure, what extent is that? You know, is it something wild which may make the contract void, or is it something not really that uh, pressurizing and is actually acceptable? In which case, well, case closed. So I don't know. I don't know all the details. I'm very interested in the development. I don't think he'll win. I think probably his best bet is to not create a beef about it. You know, he's is he going to come back in 10 years after being away again? I just think he's probably going about it maybe the wrong way. He's probably frustrated, annoyed, but um, you know, he's getting plenty of success.
Yeah, man, stop being fucking greedy. I mean, it's like you know, like again, I never, you know, again, and social criticism, a lot of stuff he says, I'm like down on point with. I'm like, yeah, about time somebody says that shit, right? That's a public kind of figure, you know. But with this one, man, like now I wish I could talk to him. You know, I want to get his feedback because he seems as like a soul. I really like this about people. This is what I like about you, right? People who think, analyze their actions,
Mm,
you know? And you know what? You will make mistakes. Not you might, you will.
yeah.
You know, you will come to the wrong decision various times in your life, right? But the difference between those who analyze, they could really, you could realize the wrong decisions. You will come to your thought and you're like, you know what? I was wrong about that.
Mm,
And you will make an effort. And that's all I care about. I don't care about you being a perfect person because I'm
Hey.
far from perfect. Anybody, right? But I just want to see an effort from people, and that's the most important thing to me, right?
Yeah.
And Dave Chappelle is one of those souls that does put effort, does think. I mean, I could just see that. And again, I don't know him like I know him as you do, a far away kind of figure, right?
Hmm. He
But
only visits
he's
once a year.
right. But I do feel from his comedy and stuff, besides the whole funny aspect of it that he has to be because he's making money off it, right?
Hmm.
That he really does put thought into stuff, and
Yeah, he
it's
does.
not, kind of just for entertainment,
Hmm.
you know. So he'll be all right. You said that he won't think he's gonna win. Well,
Do you
in
think
this
he'll
day
win?
and age, I mean, this day and age, public kind of pressure and the Me Too, uh, now the Black Lives movement. I mean, who knows what Viacom's gonna do? But right, they could change it. But under normal circumstances, with no not the social kind of things happening, he would never win, right? He would
Hmm.
have to fucking sue them, and he has no right to. That's why he hasn't. He has no right to sue them. So that's that. I think just stop being greedy, man. People just need to stop being greedy.
But he's probably coming from his side. He's probably like they were greedy, and
Yeah, they were. They were
and
absolutely. He is right. They were, everything he's saying. Don't get me wrong. Everything he's saying is right. Right. He is right. They should negotiate. Right. They should do
should
all
they?
this stuff. Yes. Yes.
But
They
morally,
should.
you're talking morally.
Morally, right. Morally, they should do this stuff.
Mm,
But hey, man, there is a legal process, and I'm sorry if you made a decision.
mm.
Live with the consequences, man. Especially when you turned out all right anyway. Now, I don't know if you know this, but Batman, right,
Yeah.
was created. My favorite. I know you're like, what the hell?
Who
We
is
come up with
Batman?
right. Who's this Batman? Right,
Tell me about
Batman.
it. Wait, is this another one from the 80s?
Uh, right, my favorite superhero comic book, whatever you want to put, right? Uh, uh, was always created by Bob Kane, right? And I don't remember. Hold on, let me look who created because this is a good story. You know,
Who
uh,
created Batman?
right. So one second. Blab on for a second, Craig.
Well, audience, I hope you're well. I'm all wrong. He's having a little look there. Let's admire his painting in the background. It's quite cool. This is a picture. It's on papyrus, right?
It is on papyrus. But okay, so Batman, right, was created by Bob Kane, and I didn't even know the story behind it. I just watched Batman movies all my life and shows, and I always said Batman created by um uh Bob Bob Kane, right? But then I saw this documentary about that, right, and it tells a story about um Bill Finger, right? It was called the Two Bobs. I don't know why, but it says here Bill Finger, right?
Okay.
Um, and he actually created Batman, right? He came out with Bob Kane, and he created Batman. But Bob Kane hired him as a contract, and kind of the same thing that happened to Chappelle,
Mm,
right? Happened to this guy, but in a way worse way, right? You know how big Batman is, obviously, right? And Bob Kane, you took full advantage of. I mean, if you look back in the '80s, Bob Kane came out to the Batman '80s premiere. Michael Keaton dressed as Batman because he was so right. But it was in fact all this time, this guy named Bill Finger was the real credit behind Batman, and he tried to make it in Hollywood. He had some few writing credits, but he died, man, like kind of my worst fears. He died broke,
mm,
alone,
mm.
in his couch, 70 something years old in a Bronx apartment, in a shitty Bronx apartment, right?
Terrible. That's
Right. And
bad.
and Bob Kane later died after that, right? So DC owns Batman, right?
Mm,
This guy came out with this documentary, and this is what I'm talking about, man. He made a real difference for somebody, right? he made this documentary, and and even said you should watch it. He talks in the documentary how he didn't even want to do this, or it's kind of like it compelled him to do this. He was like, yeah, he wasn't even talking about any of this stuff, right? And he went on, and in the end, he got DC to acknowledge now. So every time you see Batman now, you will see created by Bob Kane and Bill.
Oh, they put the two names on.
Yeah, now, and his granddaughter.
She's on it too.
No, no, she's not. No, but she got a check from DC, kind of like a payout.
Oh, okay.
In the millions of.
So you're kind of pointing to the efforts of this one person who put the documentary together, even though that they maybe didn't really want to do it. It was their gut feeling to kind of, they had a duty to almost tell a story, and hey ho, they got something resolved. Some nice things happen out of it.
Right. But it's different, because this guy never did anything like Batman, not even close. I mean, like I said, he died broke, right? Chapelle is not broke. He's far from it, right? In fact, he's more popular now. As I said, one of the most YouTube videos of 2020 is Dave Chapelle.
Some money. He's making some
money. Yeah. So that, again, let it go. Make some doper shit, because that's who you are. You're an artist. You overcome, and you put out better work, or at least you tried.
Maybe it's a good employee, Rami. Maybe he's suing them, getting all the eyeballs on Dave Chapelle, and then he comes out and hits them with his new show.
Yeah, I'm sure that either way he's gonna win. That's what I'm saying. That's our point. He's gonna win. He's winning. And that's, people need to stop it when they're winning. All right, focus on different shit. Okay, but yeah, that's that.
Do you just to cap it off, or a nice little example? The Simpsons, man, they do episodes on some of the realest things. They illustrate it very nicely. And I don't know if you watched The Simpsons, or if you remember this episode, one of the older ones. Yeah?
Love The Simpsons, yeah.
Okay. One of the older ones where they're talking about the rights to, I think, Itchy and Scratchy or some other dog actor. And, it actually turned out it wasn't this person who drew this cartoon, but it was another person, and then they try and fight for the right of this real creator. Where am I going with this, Rami? In the end, what was the conclusion to that? In the end, I don't know.
I think what you were trying to point out is that this is not a new thing, that people are well aware this happens. Yeah. People are well aware this happens, and like I said, the Batman thing is because if he got credit from the first time, he would have been successful. You understand? Like, oh shit, you created Batman? Of course I'll give you a writing job on my show. You could write the whole show. I mean, again, that's kind of what Dave Chappelle, at least they gave him credit, and everybody knows. Nobody's like, oh, who? Dave Chappelle show. Oh, yeah, Comedy Central. Yeah. No, I mean, you remember maybe that it was on Comedy Central, but you don't mention it. You don't mention it as in anything of it, So that's the point.
Thanks for that save, Rami.
Hell yeah, well, you smoke too much.
Should we end it here? That's nearly an hour and a half.
Yeah, I think episode 3 is in the wraps.
Thank you, everyone. This has been episode 3. We have talked about transgender rights, pronouns, Elliot Page coming out as transgender. We've chatted about Dave Chapelle and what's going on him with his contract argument and disagreement. Rami has given some insightful perspectives today, and I have just
mushroom boxes.
So there you go. You stay classy, and I get sued for that. You need a sign-off line. Thank you.
Stay classy. Yeah. What? All right.